mental health, it doesn't discriminate regardless of how good you are at something. If it's going to get you, it's going to get you. The marshalling room is the last stop before you go out onto the pool deck, and it can be a very intimidating experience because it's where mind games can happen. It's where your rivals can, just try to out-psych you. One of my very first international competitions, the German guy, Jörg Hoffmann, basically sat on my lap, and he was 6'6" and built like a tank. And it scared the daylights out of me, and I had a really bad heat swim. But then as the pressure and the expectation built, that's when I started to sort of withdraw, and I learned to love training more than racing because I was just so overwhelmed with the racing aspect. If they gave out gold medals for training, I'd have so many, but they don't. The 1996 Olympics was a really interesting time for the swimming team. Going into day 5 and 6 of that particular meet, we hadn't won a gold medal. There started to be a lot of noise and chatter from back home about disappointing and not doing as well as we should have. And so going into the last day, 1500 metre freestyle final, the one event that I really wanted to win, I walked out onto the pool deck and I was in lane 4, Kieran Perkins was in lane 8, and I was absolutely petrified. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be that 9-year-old kid in my lounge room watching, because that's when it was fun and it was innocent, and I had dreams, and I was beyond scared. To come away with a silver medal, massive failure, massive disappointment, and it led to, stupidly, and I get really angry that it was such a dark period for a while after I got home from the games, because you shouldn't be disappointed or feel like you failed because you won 3 individual medals at the Olympics. The period post the 1996 Olympics was really a difficult time. I knew that my opportunity had passed. I didn't have anything else going on in my life. I was just a swimmer. That was my one identity. I left Melbourne and moved to the AIS in Canberra, which is really when a lot of the demons started to kick in, because getting any form of help was a sign of weakness, was a sign of vulnerability, and I didn't want to demonstrate that. So I stupidly thought on my own I could deal with everything. I started to develop a lot of issues around my body image and how I viewed myself, became extremely bulimic, would binge eat and purge, and there were a lot of dark times where I felt as though it would be a lot easier to not be around. And I thought long and hard about, okay, how do I end my life? I never confided in anyone what I was feeling, what my actions were. Particularly when I was in Canberra at the AIS, I decided not to live on campus, and I moved to a 1-bedroom apartment. And when I left for pool, I wouldn't see anyone again until the next training session. I withdrew, because the less I saw people, the less then they could possibly see that there was vulnerability, there was something not quite right. And I was very good at putting on a front and a facade that everything was going great. And I think that's one of the scary things about mental health, and is that people can disguise it, and I did a very good job of it. In 2005, I had accepted who I was, and that was a gay man, and I told my family and my closest friends, and I made a very conscious decision that who I was as a person was between me and them, and I didn't feel I had this need to come out publicly. It wasn't until around 2010 that I started to get calls from a number of publications saying that they were going to out me. And I really felt as though a part of me was being taken away, was being robbed. And so I decided to take matters into my own hands and chose to come out publicly, and did it on my own terms. I never really ever copped a lot of abuse, other than literally sitting on the tram and a guy just walked past and goes, "You're a fucking faggot," and kept going. I was startled because I didn't realise that the hatred that some people felt because of my sexuality, and two, that he even recognised who I was. If I could go back in time to the late 90s, early 2000s, the things that I would tell myself are, people aren't going to love me anymore if I win a gold medal at the Olympics. People are going to love me probably more if I am true to myself and accept who I am as a gay man. On reflection, they're the things that I beat myself up about the most. Was I failed at the Olympics, and it's embarrassing to be a gay man, and if I could get a number of those years back, then I'd be grateful. In many ways I retired on my own terms. You know, physically I couldn't do it, so it made that decision to stop a lot easier. But I consider myself one of the lucky ones when it comes to that transition aspect, because it's a very difficult and challenging time. I'm extremely grateful, and I wouldn't change a single thing, because it's helped shape me into the person that I am today. And I'm proud of who I am today, and I'm passionate about the things that I'm doing on a daily basis. I recently started as the Olympian Services Manager of the Australian Olympic Committee to develop and then ultimately roll out a transition program to assist our Olympians to create a life outside of sport and create another identity, so that they don't feel as though they can only refer to themselves as an Olympian.